Hi, my name's Dan Nelson, and I'm really excited to present to you the Speedball Calligraphy Collector's Set. Just a work of art in itself. It comes in a beautiful hardwood box. Let me open it for you here. It features 1, 2, 3, 4 pen holders and 8 nibs, 3 jars of ink, and what would the fourth jar be but a jar of pen cleaner. That's really a great addition to the kit. And then finally has this book. I've enjoyed very much. You can see I've already got corners turned down in my book, nearly 100 pages jam-packed with beautiful examples of calligraphy, history behind many of the fonts, and very practical technical tips for how to do calligraphy. Great book. I'm going to use some of it right now. Let's talk about the things that are in the kit. First of all, as I said, 4 handles. Got it? 1 is a crow quill, then 2 traditional pen holders. 1 is fancy black and gold, and then a traditional pen holder, and finally, of course, an oblique pen holder. Then 8 different nibs, 2 C's, which for most of us are probably the workhorse of the calligraphy world. 2 C's, a 101, which is a thick and thin for copperplate script lettering. And then, let me hold these up, a 512 and a 513. I don't know if you've played very much with these. It turns out I'm actually a full-time illustrator, part-time calligrapher, full-time illustrator and fine artist, and I have more hours behind these nibs than I could even imagine because I use them a lot for drawing. So they're very good for drawing. They have a little bit of flex, a little bit of wide and thin in them so that the stroke you put down has a little bit of energy to it. Very good for doing very energetic fonts, lettering. Here's an example right here, I believe, of some of the lettering that is quite energetic with done with these points. 1 is fine and the other is extra fine. There's an A nib, and Speedball are the only people in the world who produce the A nib. You remember this one, don't you? It's the square one. So if you get a large A, it's great for doing poster lettering with square edges in one stroke. Don't have to go in and backfill and draw those corners. It produces the corners for you right off. The small A nib, good for ornamentation, square Gothic, and in my case especially for doing square serifs on letters with just one stroke. Now let me pick up the B nib and do a little bit of drawing of calligraphy rather with that. I'm going to go to page 16 in the book, which has monoline in it, and the B, as you know, is a round nib, so it's the same width whether you're going horizontal or vertical. So it's the perfect nib for doing simple, straight up monoline letters. Let me just do a quick A, B, C. A lot of my favorite calligraphy is calligraphy that combines ornate, ornamented, fancy script with a very simple script at the same time. So the B is very good for that. I'll do the C nib next, and I'm assuming if you are have been doing calligraphy for a while that you've already pretty much mastered your italic and chancery hands, which is for most people standard calligraphy fonts, and that's what the C is good for. It's also good for a black letter, Fraktur, Old English font. Let me grab, I almost always have out here a piece of sticky note paper so that I can make sure my pen has just the right amount of ink on it. And since I did an ABC there, let me skip and do an E here. In one of the black letter versions found in this book. This particular black letter designed by Ward Dunham. Just one word of experience from my life as in the world of calligraphy is it's wise to really nail down one font before you move on to a bunch of variations. In other words, pick the black letter that you like, and you actually get a couple of different examples in this book. Pick the font that you like and get that firmly in your hand before you start getting creative and adding other fonts. Does that make sense? Let's do the letter F. So the C nib, again, this is a C2, fairly wide, nice middle of the road width for most of us. I'll do just one more letter just because it's more fun and you get to watch me do it. Forgive me while I waste your time doing more letters, but let's do a G. I bet you've experienced what I have, and that is that in order to do calligraphy, you really have to be relaxed. So the minutes that I spend practicing calligraphy in any given day typically end up being the most relaxed minutes of my day, because you have to stay relaxed. By the way, you notice I'm doing all of this without any guidelines. That's just a habit that I've developed on my own. Whenever I'm practicing, just warming up like I'm doing here, do it without guidelines to see if you can begin to maintain straight lines of type without the aid of guidelines. And then, of course, when I'm doing a quote, real project, a fine arts project, then I will add guidelines to make sure that I'm really straight. Let's talk about the crow quill for just a minute. Typical crow quill handle and a crow quill 102 nib. Again, my wife has said so many years, if we had 1 penny for every line you've drawn with a crow quill nib, we'd be millionaires. So a lot of my illustration involves cross-hatching. So the crow quill is excellent for that. It's also good for doing thick and thin lettering. And I have here, I don't know if you can see this, it's very fine, very small, very beautiful line of letters done just with a crow quill. So there are times when you'll want to include something that small in your project, and the crow quill is the perfect job for doing that. Let me show you what is probably a more typical example of crow quill work. Here I used my 101 with the oblique handle to do the copperplate lettering, and then came back after that and did this drop shadow with the crow quill, and then also did this small lettering, William Shakespeare, with the crow quill nib. So great fun, great tool. Every calligrapher should be familiar with it, so I'm glad they included it in this kit. Now let's move on to the oblique handle and the 101 nib, and I'm going to turn to page 44 in the book. Here is a copperplate script designed by Michael Kekseg. I'm sorry, Michael, if I'm mispronouncing your name, but a really beautiful copperplate script. And let's see, let me pick out some. How about if I start with an O? Can you hear that chatter? It sounds like calligraphy, doesn't it? Let me do a P then. Let me see where it starts here. The Speedball company started in 1899 and, as you know, has been one of the primary suppliers of calligraphy tools and nibs and other writing paraphernalia for over 100 years. Just for fun, let me do one more letter. Let's do the letter H. One of the tips that I found in this book is that it says that most copperplate is done with lots of finger motion, which you see me using here, whereas Spencerian script is done with a lot of arm motion. Well, that is the Speedball Calligraphy Collector's Set. I've had a great time playing with mine, and I hope you'll have a great time advancing your calligraphy journey with yours. Thanks for watching.